morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Thank you for taking the time out to watch this video. Today's video is going to be about my trip to the Dominican Republic. Just some tips that I learned on traveling out of the country, and also some things that you need to know to prepare to travel out of the country. So, you want to make sure that you have enough time to order your passport. So it typically takes 6 to 8 weeks to get a passport. So you want to make sure before you go on your trip, before you book it, that you have enough time to get your passport, and then also just account for any delays that you may have. And of course, there is an expedited way that you can get your passport. It costs a little bit extra and you can get it in about 3 weeks. But for me and my friend who were trying to save money, we opted to just plan ahead and get our passport early. So we took our trip in the end of August, and we ordered our passports back in June, that first week in June, and then we received our passports in mid-July, end of July, somewhere around that time. So we had plenty of time, so if there was a delay, we weren't having that be a stress or a burden to our trip, because we were trying to have fun. It was my friend's birthday, and that's what we wanted to focus on, which was having a good time. So when getting your passport, all that I did was I went on Google. I Googled how to get a passport, or how to apply for a passport, and then I looked for a link that said .gov.gov. And of course, there's some other sites that are out there, but you want to make sure you go to a reliable website. So on the website, it gave step-by-step instructions on how to apply for the passport and different things that you need to know depending on your situation. So for me and my friend's situation, we just needed to print off our passport. We didn't have to do anything extra to show that we were a citizen of the United States or anything like that. So we printed it off, and we used blue or black ink on the form. That is what it specifies on the form. So you want to make sure you read the actual application. And for different things that we had questions about, we just left it blank, so that way when we did go to the office, they were able to help us out and we didn't put any wrong information on the form. So another thing that you need for your application is your original birth certificate. Let me stress that, original birth certificate. If you do not have that, you will need that. They will not process your application without the original birth certificate. So that happened to my friend. She didn't have her original, and she was just delayed a couple hours. She had to go get it from her mom's house and then go back to the office. But you need your original birth certificate. You also want to bring a copy of your driver's license, and you want to make a copy of your birth certificate so that you will have it, because when they process our application, they took the original birth certificate. So we did not have that in our possession, and we just had to hope and believe that we would get it back. So that's why you need to make a copy of your birth certificate, so that way if during that time that you do not have it, you at least have something for your records. Another thing that we had to have was a money order, 2 money orders actually. We had to have one specifically for the purpose of the passport, and another was like an execution fee, or just a fee specifically for that location. And me being really paranoid, I didn't fill them out. When I got there, I asked them, hey, what needs to be filled in the money order? And they told us, and we filled it out, and that was that. So if you're hesitant about something, just wait until you get there, so that way you're not making any mistakes and you don't have any delays with getting your passport. You will need to take a picture of yourself, but you can do that at the location, so that's not something that you necessarily need to bring with you. For us, we did decide to do it at Walgreens, and it was about $16 with tax, because we didn't want that to limit us to which locations that we go to, because not all locations allow you to take the photo right there at the location. So that's just something that you want to consider when you do decide, am I going to take the photo there or am I going to take it somewhere else? So this is a tip. Do not come beat to capacity. They do not want you looking your best. They want you to look dry and dusty for these photos. Like, we couldn't even smile. It was just like, that's our picture at Punta Cana Now Garden, and it was also on the same resort area as Punta Cana Now Larimar, which we were able to go and visit, use their restaurants, and also take part in the activities that they had at that resort. So the resort was really beautiful. I really liked how the room was set up, and it was all inclusive, which I liked. The Wi-Fi was free. For our excursions, we booked through Amstar, which was the vendor that was there on the resort. We did see some options that were online, but we didn't book online just because we needed to save up some more money before we booked the resort. So once we got there, we saw out a vendor, Amstar, and we talked to one of the guys there. And unfortunately, since we had seen those really good deals, we were like, no, we're not having it. Like, make a deal happen. So he couldn't make the deal happen. Then we talked to a second guy from Amstar, and he was showing us things that we weren't asking for, so he couldn't sell us on that deal. Then we talked to the third guy, friend Leas. He was awesome. Like, he got our sense of humor. He met us where we were with our price range, and he understood we didn't want to just do 1 or 2 excursions. So he made it happen. Not 3, but 4 excursions. He made it happen for us for a really good deal. I think it was around $240 with tax. It might have been a little bit less, but we thought it was a really good deal because not only was it 4 different excursions, but it was split up into 3 days. So we were able to spread out the excursions, and we didn't have to do them all on one day like some of the other offers that we got. So we were really excited about that. And so we did boogie driving through Wild Tiger. That was the name of the company, and pretty much we just rode through the country area, and I'll insert some clips of that. We also did zip lining and horseback riding at Skate Park. That was the name of the park. They had about 7 different activities there, but we only chose to do those 2, which is really cool. And we met these 2 guys, and one of them recorded the video of us coming down on the last zip line, which was really cool because we didn't even ask him to do that.
Here they come.
The last thing that we did was a party boat, and mind you, I am not the best swimmer. Like, I took lessons specifically before I went on this trip, and it was like I did 2 little lessons with my family. So getting on the party boat and then going snorkeling, I was really hesitant and getting in the water. Like, I was holding on to other people, and I kind of freaked out a little bit because this girl was freaking out next to me. So I womaned up and I was like, okay, I'm going to do this. I want to do the snorkeling. Like, let's go. So I pushed myself to just go with the guy, the instructor person, and just go with the staff there. You're going to be okay. So I did that, and he was pretty cool. He helped us swim around the little area, and it was so many fish in the water. It was crazy. Like, it was so cool. It was so beautiful. Like, I definitely want to do snorkeling again. One big thing that stood out to us while we were on the trip was just how genuinely happy the staff were were at the resorts and just the different people that were helping us on the excursions, they were really genuinely happy. Like we didn't encounter anyone that had like a major attitude issue, which was so surprising. So we got to know some of the locals, and one of the guys told us that they work 12 days straight and they're only off 3 days, and then they work another 12 days straight. And when we heard that, like, we in our minds we were going to move to the Dominican Republic, but once we heard that, it was a no go. Like, what do you mean 12 days straight? Like, I can't even do 5. How do you do 12? It was, yeah, that was the deal breaker for us. But they were just so genuinely happy. It was like so confusing. Like, how do you work all this time and you're still so happy? Like, man, if you guys can just teach us something in America, I mean, I think America could be great. So that was really cool for us to get to know some of the locals. They were able to teach us some Spanish, and we also went off of the resort with one of the guys, and it was pretty cool. So that brings me to my tips, is to get to know the locals. Don't be afraid to interact with them so that you can get to know about the country that you're staying in. And it's also cool because they will take you around town if you're open to it. So that way you can see more of the country that you're in. So obviously be careful. I'm not saying do this with anybody. Use your judgment and your discernment. Like, just feel out that person and be wise. Don't go by yourself. Different things like that. If you do decide to go, obviously be very aware when you are out so that nothing happens to you and you can make it safely back home. Another tip is that you should learn some Spanish or whatever the language is for the country that you are staying in, because it just helps a little bit. It wasn't necessary in the Dominican Republic, but once they knew that we knew some Spanish, because we knew very little, but once they knew that we knew a little, they were like really excited, and I just love seeing their faces like, oh, okay, you know what we're talking about. We don't have to speak English, but we can communicate in the language that we're familiar in. So it was just really cool for us to interact with them on that level. Another thing is that you should bring ones. Everywhere we went, there was a tip jar, and I felt really bad because I only had a designated amount of money and it wasn't in ones. So I wasn't able to give tips, but it was literally everywhere, like on the bus, on your way to the excursions, in the bathroom, at the excursions, at the resort. Like, there was I've never seen so many tip jars in my life, and there were so many of them. But that's why I'm saying bring ones so that you can give some out. Don't give out a lot of ones unless you're balling like that, but you want to have enough to give out to all the different places. So for exchanging currency, we didn't necessarily need to do that to go to the Dominican Republic, but depending on whatever country that you go to, you may need to do that. And if you do, make sure that you plan out enough time to allow that whatever vendor you go to, allow them the time to actually order the money, because in my mind I thought they would just have it there, but they don't. They have to actually order it a lot of the time. So you just want to make sure that you plan out enough time before your trip to exchange currency if that's what you need to do. My last tip is just to make sure that you bring money on the excursions. They had different things there. When we did boogie driving, one of the stops that we made was actually in a part of the country where we were able to purchase some things, but I didn't have that much money, so I wasn't able to get everything that I saw that I wanted to bring back for my family. So just keep that in mind when you do go on excursions. Just bring a little bit extra cash so that you are able to purchase some excursions. But make sure, of course, you safely secure them wherever you are, so that way you can bring them back with you and they don't fly off or anything like that. So that's all my tips and tricks for the Dominican Republic. If you have traveled out of the country and there's some countries that I should definitely go to, just leave them down in the comments below. And also, if you have any tips or tricks of things that you did in whatever country you traveled to, also leave them down below. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Bye, guys.